Welcome to Not Alone Today, chronological Bible reading plan. Today's day 58, and we'll be reading Deuteronomy chapters 22 to 25 using the English Standard Version.
Chapter 22. You shall not see your brother's ox or sheep going astray and ignore them. You shall take them back to your brother. And if he does not live near you and you do not know who he is, you shall bring it home to your house, and it shall stay with you until your brother seeks it. Then you shall restore it to him. And you shall do the same with his donkey or with his garment or with any lost thing of your brother's, which he loses and you find. You may not ignore it. You shall not see your brother's donkey or his ox falling down by the way and ignore them. You shall help them to lift them up again.
A woman shall not wear a man's garment, nor shall a man put on a woman's cloak. For whoever does these things is an abomination to the Lord your God.
If you come across a bird's nest in any tree or on the ground, with young ones or eggs and the mother sitting on the young or on the eggs, you shall not take the mother with the young. You shall let the mother go, but the young you may take for yourself, that it may go well with you and that you may live long.
When you build a new house, you shall make a parapet for your roof, that you may not bring the guilt of blood upon your house, if anyone should fall from it.
You shall not sow your vineyard with two kinds of seed, lest the whole yield be fortified. The crop that you have sown and the yield of the vineyard. You shall not plow with an ox and a donkey together. You shall not wear cloth of wool and linen mixed together.
You shall make yourself tassels on the four corners of the garment with which you cover yourself.
If any man takes a wife and goes in to her and then hates her, and accuses her of misconduct and brings a bad name upon her, saying, I took this woman, and when I came near her, I did not find in her evidence of virginity. Then the father of the young woman and her mother shall take and bring out the evidence of her virginity to the elders of the city in the gates. And the father of the young woman shall say to the elders, I gave my daughter to this man to marry, and he hates her. And behold, he has accused her of misconduct, saying, I did not find in your daughter evidence of virginity. And yet this is the evidence of my daughter's virginity. And they shall spread the cloak before the elders of the city. Then the elders of that city shall take the man and whip him, and they shall fine him 100 shekels of silver, and give them to the father of the young woman, because he has brought a bad name upon a virgin of Israel. And she shall be his wife. He may not divorce her all his days. But if the thing is true, that evidence of virginity was not found in the young woman, then they shall bring out the young woman to the door of her father's house, and the men of her city shall stone her to death with stones, because she has done an outrageous thing in Israel by warring in her father's house. So you shall purge the evil from your midst.
If a man is found lying with the wife of another man, both of them shall die. The man who lay with the woman and the woman, so he shall purge the evil from Israel.
If there is a betrothed virgin, and a man meets her in the city and lies with her, then you shall bring them both out to the gate of that city, and you shall stone them to death with stones. The young woman, because she did not cry for help, though she was in the city, and the man, because he violated his neighbor's wife. So you shall purge the evil from your midst.
But if in the open country a man meets a young woman who is betrothed, and the man seizes her and lies with her, then only the man who lay with her shall die. But you shall do nothing to the young woman. She has committed no offense punishable by death. For this case is like that of a man attacking and murdering his neighbor, because he met her in the open country, and though the betrothed young woman cried for help, there was no one to rescue her.
If a man meets a virgin who is not betrothed, and seizes her and lies with her, and they are found, then the man who lay with her shall give to the father of the young woman 50 shekels of silver, and she shall be his wife, because he has violated her. He may not divorce her all his days.
A man shall not take his father's wife, so that he does not uncover his father's nakedness.
Chapter 23. No one whose testicles are crushed or whose male organ is cut off shall enter the assembly of the Lord.
No one born of a forbidden union may enter the assembly of the Lord. Even to the 10th generation, none of his descendants may enter the assembly of the Lord.
No Ammonite or Moabite may enter the assembly of the Lord. Even to the 10th generation, none of them may enter the assembly of the Lord forever, because they did not meet you with bread and with water on the way when you came out of Egypt, and because they hired against you Balaam the son of Beor from Pethor of Mesopotamia to curse you. But the Lord your God would not listen to Balaam. Instead, the Lord your God turned the curse into a blessing for you, because the Lord your God loved you. You shall not seek their peace or their prosperity all your days forever.
You shall not abhor an Edomite, for he is your brother. You shall not abhor an Egyptian, because you are a sojourner in his land. Children born to them in the 3rd generation may enter the assembly of the Lord.
When you are encamped against your enemies, then you shall keep yourself from evil, from every evil thing.
If any man among you becomes unclean because of a nocturnal emission, then he shall go outside the camp. He shall not come inside the camp. But when evening comes, he shall bathe himself in water, and as the sun sets, he may come inside the camp.
You shall have a place outside the camp, and you shall go out to eat. And you shall have a trowel with your tools. And when you sit down outside, you shall dig a hole with it and turn back and cover up your excrement, because the Lord your God walks in the midst of your camp to deliver you and to give up your enemies before you. Therefore your camp must be holy, so that he may not see anything indecent among you and turn away from you.
You shall not give up to his master a slave who has escaped from his master to you. He shall dwell with you in your midst in the place that he shall choose within one of your towns. Wherever it suits him, you shall not wrong him.
None of the daughters of Israel shall be a cult prostitute, and none of the sons of Israel shall be a cult prostitute. You shall not bring the fee of a prostitute or the wages of a dog into the house of the Lord your God in payment for any vow, for both of these are an abomination to the Lord your God.
You shall not charge interest on loans to your brother, interest on money, interest on food, interest on anything that is lent for interest. You may charge a foreigner interest, but you may not charge your brother interest, that the Lord your God may bless you in all that you undertake in the land that you're entering to take possession of it.
If you make a vow to the Lord your God, you shall not delay fulfilling it, for the Lord your God will surely require it of you, and you will be guilty of sin. But if you refrain from vowing, you will not be guilty of sin. You shall be careful to do what has passed to your lips, for you have voluntarily vowed to the Lord your God what you have promised with your mouth.
If you go into your neighbor's vineyard, you may eat your fill of grapes, as many as you wish, but you shall not put any in your bag. If you go into your neighbor's standing grain, you may pluck the ears with your hand, but you shall not put a sickle to your neighbor's standing grain.
Chapter 24. When a man takes a wife and marries her, if then she finds no favor in his eyes because he has found some indecency in her, and he writes her a certificate of divorce and puts it in her hand and sends her out of his house, and she departs out of his house, and if she goes and becomes another man's wife, and the latter man hates her and writes her a certificate of divorce and puts it in her hand and sends her out of his house, or if the latter man dies who took her to be his wife, then her former husband who sent her away may not take her again to be his wife after she has been defiled, for that is an abomination before the Lord. And you shall not bring sin upon the land that the Lord your God is giving you for an inheritance.
When a man is newly married, he shall not go out with the army or be liable for any other public duty. He shall be free at home 1 year to be happy with his wife whom he has taken.
No one shall take a meal or an upper millstone in pledge, for that would be taking a life in pledge.
If a man is found stealing one of his brothers of the people of Israel, and if he treats him as a slave or sells him, then that thief shall die. So you shall purge the evil from your midst.
Take care in a case of leprous disease to be very careful to do according to all that the Levitical priests shall direct you. As I commanded them, so you shall be careful to do. Remember what the Lord your God did to Miriam on the way as you came out of Egypt.
When you make your neighbor a loan of any sort, you shall not go into his house to collect his pledge. You shall stand outside, and the man to whom you make the loan shall bring the pledge out to you. And if he's a poor man, you shall not sleep in his pledge. You shall restore to him the pledge as the sun sets, that he may sleep in his cloak and bless you, and it shall be righteousness for you before the Lord your God.
You shall not oppress a hired worker who is poor and needy, whether he is one of your brothers or one of the sojourners who are in your land within your towns. You shall give him his wages on the same day before the sun sets, for he is poor and counts on it, lest he cry against you to the Lord and you be guilty of sin.
Fathers shall not be put to death because of their children, nor children be put to death because of their fathers. Each one shall be put to death for his own sin.
You shall not pervert the justice due to the sojourner or to the fatherless, or take a widow's garment in pledge. But you shall remember that you were a slave in Egypt, and the Lord your God redeemed you from there. Therefore I command you to do this.
When you reap your harvest in your field, and forget a sheaf in the field, you shall not go back to get it. It shall be for the sojourner, the fatherless, and the widow, that the Lord your God may bless you in all the work of your hands. When you beat your olive trees, you shall not go over them again. It shall be for the sojourner, the fatherless, and the widow. When you gather the grapes of your vineyard, you shall not strip it afterward. It shall be for the sojourner, the fatherless, and the widow. You shall remember that you were a slave in the land of Egypt. Therefore I command you to do this.
Chapter 25. If there is a dispute between men and they come into court and the judges decide between them, acquitting the innocent and condemning the guilty, then if the guilty man deserves to be beaten, the judge shall cause him to lie down and be beaten in his presence with a number of stripes in proportion to his offense. 40 stripes may be given him, but not more, lest if anyone should go on to beat him with more stripes than this, your brother be degraded in your sight.
You shall not muzzle an ox when it is treading out the grain.
If brothers dwell together and one of them dies and has no son, the wife of the dead man shall not be married outside the family to a stranger. Her husband's brother shall go in to her and take her as his wife and perform the duty of a husband's brother to her. And the first son whom she bears shall succeed to the name of his dead brother, that his name may not be blotted out of Israel. And if the man does not wish to take his brother's wife, then his brother's wife shall go up to the gate to the elders and say, My husband's brother refuses to perpetuate his brother's name in Israel. He will not perform the duty of a husband's brother to me. Then the elders of his city shall call him and speak to him. And if he persists, saying, I do not wish to take her, then his brother's wife shall go up to him in the presence of the elders and pull his sandal off his foot and spit in his face. And she shall answer and say, So shall it be done to the man who does not build up his brother's house. And the name of his house shall be called in Israel, the house of him who had his sandal pulled off.
When men fight with one another, and the wife of the one draws near to rescue her husband from the hand of him who is beating him, and puts out her hand and seizes him by the private parts, then you shall cut off her hand. Your eyes shall have no pity.
You shall not have in your bag 2 kinds of weights, a large and a small. You shall not have in your house 2 kinds of measures, a large and a small. A full and fair weight you shall have, a full and fair measure you shall have, that your days may be long in the land that the Lord your God is giving you. For all who do such things, all who act dishonestly, are an abomination to the Lord your God.
Remember what Amalek did to you on the way as you came out of Egypt, how he attacked you on the way when you were faint and weary, and cut off your tail, those who were lagging behind you, and they did not fear God. Therefore, when the Lord your God has given you rest from all your enemies around you, in the land that the Lord your God has given you for an inheritance to possess. You shall blot out the memory of Amalek from under heaven. You shall not forget. This is the word of the Lord.
Thanks be to God.
Just a quick summary of everything we've read so far. In chapter 22, we read about various laws. Law about a woman not wearing a man's clothing, and a woman not putting on, and a man not putting on a woman's clothing. Different laws about the kind of roof, what you use in building your roof, and about vineyards, about sowing and the cloth you wear. And there were also laws about sexual immorality as well. And also, chapter 23 talked about people who are to be excluded from the assembly of God and who are to be included. Another part of that chapter talked about how God wants the Israelites come to be holy and clean. And then miscellaneous laws were talked about again regarding slaves who escape from their masters, charging interest to brothers, however, daughters of Israel shall not be called prostitutes, and when making a vow not to delay it, and now that you can eat from someone's farm but not put things in your bag or take a sickle to their standing grain. And then chapter 24 talks about the law concerning divorce, and also other laws were mentioned there, and which quite detailed about each person being put to death for their own sin, and about leprosy and loans, etc. Then chapter 25 talks about how that when there is a dispute among men, how they should decide how such cases should be decided. And then there was laws concerning levirate marriages. And then miscellaneous laws were mentioned again regarding different kind of scenarios that they should be mindful of. So going to 22, Kola, what stood out to you?
In chapter 22, what stood out to me is around verse 18, where there's an instruction about a man that is misbehaving and how he should be whipped. It says, then the elders of that city shall take the man and whip him, and they shall find him 100 shekels, because he has lied. He said his wife is not a virgin, when in fact the wife is a virgin. And I just felt like, yes, rightly so. You got what was coming for you, kind of. And some of these laws will do that. But in the broader context of the chapter, and indeed of the laws that had been given and that we'll continue to see, the whole emphasis is around the fact that the Israelites must always remember that they are different from the other nations. And to highlight that difference, God puts a lot of distinctives into the laws that is given them. Even down to things like you should not wear a clothes that is, a mixture of two different materials, like wool and linen, which we do and take for granted today. Again, rightly so, because we are living in a context that is different from which these laws were intended, so to speak. But I just thought to make that clear that, when you read all of this law, you can't take an ox and a bull and yoke them together to work on your farm. It's not like there would be anything bad in doing that, naturally. But again, when you read all of these things, it drums in the fact that God doesn't want unholy mixtures. He doesn't want the people of His chosen people to in any way, show that they are living like the people of the nations around them that they are driving out to possess their land. Yeah. Anything stood out to you?
Yeah, nothing stood out to me. I think the same thing stood out to me in chapter 22.
Okay.
In chapter 23, what stood out to me was how that the Edomites and the Egyptians were spared to enter the assembly of the Lord. But I'm not sure if it's in this chapter or in 25, that God said the Amalekites should not forget to blot them out.
Yeah.
But the Egyptian and the Edomite also did something wrong to the Israelites.
Yes, but the Edomites, because they are descendants of Esau and they are relatives, he's saying you shall not abhor them. The Egyptian, it says, verse 8, children born to them in the third generation may enter the assembly of the Lord. In other words, the generation that really did all the evil, the generation of Pharaoh that perished in the Red Sea, that generation is gone. Their children are gone. Now the children of that generation, in a sense, just to give a sense of fairness and justice, those ones that really, really did what was bad and evil, they are all long gone. Don't continue to apply the perception you had of 3 generations ago to 3 generations down the line, because they are absolutely different generations. He will go on to say later on down in, I think, this same chapter, that a father will not be killed for the sins of his son, a son will not be killed for the sins of his father. He deals with us individually and rightly and justly in that sense, yeah. For me, in chapter 23, yes, the emphasis on how the Ammonites and the Moabites may not enter the assembly of the Lord, vis-a-vis what I know about the story of Ruth, is what stood out to me, because of course we know that, and actually many things in the story of Ruth, in what we have read so far, we can begin to see how it makes sense, including the story of, when someone is not willing to be a kinsman redeemer, and how the woman shall take the sandal and pull it off his feet and call the person, chapter 25 and verse 10, and the name of his house shall be called in Israel, the house of him who had his sandal pulled off. Like, it's such a disgraceful thing to do in that sense. But yeah, that just ties in again to the story of Ruth and that little drama that happened in chapter 3, when the nearer kinsman officially said he's not interested in redeeming Ruth, being a Moabitess, but Boaz was willing to do it. And the case was settled at the city gates, with the sandal of the man removed and pulled out, and yeah, all of that.
The part I love most in 23 is from 24 to 25.
Okay.
However, if you go into your neighbor's vineyard, you can eat your fill of grapes, but do not put any in your bag. It reminded me of when we were at boarding house in FGC below in Edo State then.
Yeah.
We will go to this cashew plantation, I and my friends, and each person will choose a tree. We will climb the tree, sit on the tree, and start eating cashew.
You're fulfilling scripture.
We will eat so much that our fingers will get so sticky, our mouth dry.
Oh gosh.
And then
I can't even imagine
it's
it.
like it's beautiful. Because we're in boarding house then. And then sometimes we get scot-free. I'm actually thinking what we did was not good. It was actually stealing. I think the owner allows us to do that. But what he doesn't like is when we now carry bags. Like when we're walking home to the hostel with bags of fruit or something. I think that's when they start shouting and they will start running away. But sometimes when we're on the tree, I'm sure he would have seen us, he would just let us stay. And sometimes we go to a mango plantation as well. There are quite different plantations there. In the below, it was quite good. And we'll sit there and be gisting from tree to tree. It's beautiful. Yeah. So when I read this part, I felt like, hey, thank God. It's not stealing. We're going
Except you were not in Israel.
Exactly.
4,000 years ago.
Israel, yeah.
Okay.
Chapter 24.
Yeah, chapter 24, what stood out to me, again, I've mentioned it actually, it's verse 16, where it says, fathers shall not be put to death because of their children, nor shall children be put to death because of their fathers. Each one shall be put to death for his own sin. Because as we go down the line, and we've heard again and again this refrain when God will say, up until the 4th generation, I'm the God who visits the sin of the fathers up until the 4th generation. And then balances it by also saying, and I'm good to the generations of the righteous up until the 1,000, or shows mercy up until 1,000 generations. And that can easily be misconstrued literally to say, okay, if this family, this generation had sinned, God wants to continue to visit their sin up until 4 generations. This is a very clear straightforward instruction to balance that. That's not God. The whole idea behind that fourth generation vis-a-vis 1,000 generations is to give you a picture that shows that yes, even if God is interested in judging sin as he is ever so more gracious and ever so more merciful, that if we are to put it on a scale, he wants to show mercy to 1,000 generations and judgment to 4 generations, but it's not literal. And so by the time we get to the prophets, the prophetic literatures, we begin to see when God actually had to come out and say, you've been saying this as a proverb, that, our fathers have eaten sour grapes. The teeth of the children are set on the edge. Like what your fathers have done, you will reap the reward. And God said it clearly that proverb shall no longer be used in Israel, because it deals with each person individually, and it makes it very explicit. We'll get there when we get to Ezekiel. I think it's chapter 18. But for the meantime, suffice it to say that I love verse 16 of chapter 24, how clearly stated it is. You can't misunderstand or misinterpret it. It's plain.
If you remember what we read in day 57, you find that we talked about, we had a discussion about a woman who has been caught as plunder from another city. And now that the man can sleep with her, and we're saying now the man should leave her for 1 month to mourn the people she's lost, and then consummate the marriage. And if the man is not delighted in her, he should let her go. And we're saying that actually that in itself, as much as it might read as horrible, there's mercy in that. As God has carved out a measure for them, and that if the woman is let go, she's not going to be stranded, because measures has been put in place for her to find a place within the Israelites. Verse 19 to 22 of chapter 24 reemphasizes this, in that God said that when the Israelites are harvesting their fields, or beating their olive trees, or gathering the grapes in their vineyard, they should not take everything away, but leave some for some people, the sojourners, the fatherless, and the widows. So this woman that we talked about in chapter 21 from 10 to 14, they get to find food. They get to find sustenance. And they get shelter as well, because they can go to the judges of the town, explain their plight, and they might be given something. Because if you remember the Zelophehad's daughters, they've kind of made a provision where you can't be stranded just because of your situation, so to say. So therefore, these people will not be stranded. If God is not just mindful of the nation is carved for himself, the Israelites, but leaving also a portion of himself for the sojourners, the fatherless, and the widows. He re-emphasizes his mercy. He re-emphasizes that his grace applies to all, and not just to some people. And this, when I read it, filled me with joy and ease.
Thank you. That's helpful. Chapter 25 is the last chapter we read. And again, I love the laws concerning levirate marriage that was spelled out there. And how if the brother of a dead man refuses to perpetuate his brother's name, the woman actually has the right to go to the elders of the city and report him. And I like how such a person, if he does insist, there is a drama that is played out that shows, in some sense, that justifies, that vindicates the woman, and also slightly humiliates the man. Because not only shall she take off the man's sandal and say to his face, there's a pronouncement she has to make and say, so shall it be done to the man who does not build up his brothers. Like, you're a disgrace to the society. And then, of course, the name of that person and the person's house in Israel, they take on a new identity. This is the house of him who had his sandal pulled off. That might not mean much to us, but in their context, that is embarrassing enough, I suppose. So yeah, it's interesting.
Yes.
Do you want to say anything?
The part that stood out to me was a woman whose husband is fighting and being beaten, and she reaches out to seize the beater by his private part, that her hand shall be cut off. And God said, "Your eyes shall not have pity."
I knew you were going to talk of that one.
Yeah. But the first thing I thought, like, why not reach for his arm? Why are you reaching for his private part?
Because indeed, that is one of the quickest ways to
get him out.
It's like going for the jugular.
I felt like it's a little bit inappropriate, but if that's all she could get hold of,
why should her hand be cut off?
But God understands things. Yeah.
I think by and large, what many of these laws also do say to me is how detailed and how we serve a God that knows all of these possibilities. Like, you see some of these laws and you wonder, why would that even be a law? Like, why? But God has thought of it. He has thought of this can be an issue that would be brought, and this is how you should decide on it. And so, yeah, it's interesting.
In all of these chapters, do you have a memory verse?
My memory verse, I'll go with chapter 22, verse 5, because growing up in the context I grew up is a verse I've heard again and again. It says, "A woman shall not wear a man's garments, nor shall a man put on a woman's cloak. For whoever does these things is an abomination to the Lord your God." How about you?
Mine is from chapter 23, from verse 14. I'll read it out. "Because the Lord your God walks in the midst of your camp, to deliver you and to give up your enemies before you. Therefore your camp must be holy, so that you may not see anything indecent among you and turn away from you." And they re-emphasize the necessity for cleanliness in our homes, in our thoughts, our bodies as well. Yep.
So thank you for joining us for day 58, and we look forward to turning the page on day 59, continuing the journey through the book of Deuteronomy. But till then, just remember, you're not alone
Today, God bless you.